And we are live. Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Level Up Live. Come on in. I am your host, Dr. Sharita Gaskins Tillett. I have a really special guest with us tonight. I will introduce her in a few minutes, but I want to give a chance for folks to come in. If you're watching us live, please say hi in the comments. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. Feel free to ask questions in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, I will pass along your questions. So, I do have a couple of announcements before we get started. The first is just a reminder that we're going to have our monthly Level Up happy hour on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So, don't miss it. We had such a great time last month. I can't wait for this month. We learned about each other. We learned about hidden talents that we have in the group, and it's really a lot of fun. So, if you missed last time, don't miss this time. Join us Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, registration is still open for a weekend from me, but it's not open for very long. Registration is closing on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So, this coming Friday, the 24th at 10 a.m. Eastern. So, if you have not yet secured your spot, please do so. www.aweekendforme.com. It is going to be an amazing weekend of transformation. And hi, Dr. Beckford. All right, so I think we're ready to get started. I'm going to introduce our guests. We have with us tonight Dr. Elisa Chiang, and I'm going to read her bio for you. So, Dr. Elisa is an ophthalmologist, oculoplastic surgeon, and life coach. She works with physicians to help them gain confidence around money and investing so that they can build their path to financial freedom while enjoying the journey along the way. Part of this work involves unearthing their money beliefs so people can shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundant mindset and be open to receiving wealth in their lives. Good evening. Welcome, Dr. Elisa. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I'm really excited to hear about how changing our
Mhm.
mindset can really impact our finances. So, before we get into that, though, I'd like you to tell us a little about your personal journey in medicine and how you've come now to be where you are. And what Dr. Lisa did not have in her bio that I'm going to say is that she's also the founder of Grow Your Wealthy Mindset. So I don't know why that's not in her bio, but she is. And so she's going to tell us how she went from doctor to grow your wealthy mindset.
Yeah, so I probably started my financial journey when I was doing the MSTP program, the medical science training program. So it took me 8 years to do the MD, PhD, and I did my PhD in neuroscience. And because it's that longer program, there were a lot of us MD PhDs who actually bought our own houses during that time because it is long enough, 8 years, in one place. And I was in Cleveland, Ohio, which is a relatively low cost of living. And this, I started back in 2002. So back then, a dog could get a mortgage, right? This is before the 2008 crash.
Right,
Like,
right.
so and so my husband and I was already married too. So then my husband originally didn't have a job when I started med school, but he found a job, and so we did actually have some income. And being an MSTP student, I had a stipend, so we purchased a house. And just in that process, I had to learn about like different loans. And nowadays we always talk about just getting the 30-year fixed mortgage or 15-year fixed mortgage, but back then it was a wild west, right? Like I said, a dog could get a mortgage, right?
Yeah.
So they had all these different arms, all these different products. And so I ended up getting a 7-1 arm because, we didn't buy the house right away. So the idea is usually a MD PhD takes 8 years. We were buying it like kind of the second, third year in the program. So we'd, be done and we'd sell the house when we left. And so that really just started me on the road about learning about finances and investing as well. My parents also had me start putting money into a Roth IRA as soon as I graduated college. Actually, in retrospect, they should have had me doing it while I was in college because I actually did work in college as well. But I did start doing that, but they didn't actually let me know that you're supposed to invest the money in there. So in my reading, I started investing that money, and just learning, you know, investing, and it's really done well for me because having that time, compound interest and time really works magic, right? And
Yes.
unfortunately, it doesn't work very well for a lot of us in medical training because most of us go to medical school, take out huge loans. So now we've got compound interest on the loans
Yes.
and
Right. It can
not
be
on actual
negative as
investment
well as
growing.
positive.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then it's, and oftentimes people aren't contributing during residency into any kind of retirement account. So it's not until you're an attending, which, compared to our peers who are going into other professions, it could be a whole decade later that we're actually starting to put money and thinking about, retirement. And I don't even like to think about retirement. I like to think about it as financial independence or financial freedom, because
Right.
even though we do have such a late start, because we do actually make good income, we are able to still get there and get there earlier than like the age 65, which is, become that kind of norm,
Right.
right?
Sure.
Yeah. But it's all about how we think about money. So, I've seen doctors all over the place, right? You've got some doctors where both their physicians were, both their parents were physicians. They actually didn't have to take out loans for medical school. Like, I remember one of my classmates in medical school, she was kind of like, well, I didn't know what else to do. My parents wanted me to go to medicine, so they're paying for it. I figured I'd be here. Like, literally, that was her answer for
Wow.
life while she was in medical school, right? So, and then there are people where, like, their parents maybe didn't even complete college, or, certainly not, weren't physicians, and they really borrowed everything for medical school. I definitely had
Right.
friends like that in medical school as well. So there's the whole gambit. So when people say, oh, what do you see as the money mindset among doctors? I'm like, it all depends. And it starts when we're young. It starts from,
Sure.
what our parents tell us, what our, what school system we're in, like our friends, our peers, our teachers, all of it. And but what I really want to say is that, like, we don't learn anything about money at any point of our education, right? They don't teach us. I mean, maybe in high school you learn how to uh, like, basic, I don't know, maybe balance a checkbook in fifth grade or something like that as part of
Maybe. I don't
arithmetic. I
even
don't
think
know.
I don't even think they learn that anymore. To be
Right, because
honest,
no one does checkbooks anymore, right?
no, my
Like,
20 something year old my 20 something year old nephew had to go to my mom to learn how to write a check. So I don't think they even teach that anymore.
right. So, right. So no financial education, though that is trying to change. Ohio actually recently just passed a law that in high school curriculum does have to include some basic personal finance. So we're seeing that it's necessary. And part of that is that the whole saving for retirement on our own, that really only started in the early 80s, right? Before then, people
Right.
worked for the same company their entire life, and they had a pension if they
Right.
actually, they
Right.
put in their 30, 35-year career, and they would have a pension. The companies would take care of them. And really, it's, the 80s is, it sounds like a long time ago, but still, like, it was really not that long ago,
Right.
right? Like, I mean,
No.
I was born in the 70s, so it's like still our lifetimes, right? Where people
Right.
really just had to become, uh, take care of themselves. But again, no financial literacy. So it's not just a problem among physicians, it's really a problem among, everyone here in the United States and the Western world. So, um,
So
yeah.
how did you as an individual? Okay, so you were in medical school, and you purchased or doing your program, and you purchased a property, or you
Yeah.
purchased one property, I'm assuming at that time. But how did you then make this transition to where you are now? Like, what was the catalyst for that? What were the mindset changes that you had to make as an individual?
Yeah, so I wasn't a very happy graduate student. My PI was very micromanaging and controlling, and so I got in my head, like, I need to be in a position where I don't have to work for someone else. I want to be my own boss, right? And
Yeah.
I saw that as a possibility in medicine, but in myself was like, I don't ever want to have to work for money. I want to find other ways for money to come to me. And I actually read Rich Dad Poor Dad sometime during graduate school as well, so that really got my mind kind of realizing, like, okay, I don't always just want to be an employee. I want to kind of be a business owner and an investor, other ways of bringing money in. And so I actually started investing in real estate as a graduate student. I actually flipped 2 houses and kind of got involved in some other deals. Fast forward several years. So I did residency, did fellowship. I actually wasn't really doing real estate investing during that time, just, really focusing on my medical training, and I actually really love residency and fellowship. I did residency at Northwestern Ophthalmology and fellowship in oculoplastics at Medical College of Wisconsin. Started my first job, and things were going well, but and I went to a private practice with the idea that I was going to buy in, I was going to be a partner. And at some point I realized like that wasn't looking like it was really going to happen.
Yeah.
And again, right, this was the idea, like I want to be my own boss. So I was like, you know what? That's when the real estate kind of came back in. I had started looking at real estate and then that new job in Virginia, but I was like, this market, the market there was just completely different than what I was used to. And I couldn't see how to make money doing real estate there. And some of that was my lack of own knowledge in real estate investing. But my thought was like, you know what, I'm going to go back home to Cleveland where I kind of knew the market, where I kind of knew people, some of those connections were still be around. And so that's what I did. I took a job back in Cleveland in a big hospital system where I was the only oculoplastic specialist, and therefore I was on 24/7 call for a level 1 trauma center.
Wow.
And that is just a recipe for burnout, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 24/7 call in any field is a recipe for burnout.
Right. And the thing is, like, a lot of oculoplastics fellows do take 24/7 call. My oculoplastics fellowship program, actually, we had 2 fellows, so we were 50% call, so it wasn't 24/7. But there, like I said, there are lots of fellows who did it. So, and I went in with the kind of thought that, well, there are residents now. So I have residents who are kind of seeing the original. And now I'm the attending, so I can make the decision. And oculoplastics is one of those things where it's like, even during fellowship, there was only once I operated at night, past midnight. It's even though there are emergencies, they're scheduled for the next day, 2-3 days around. There are things that can
Dr. Elisa, some of my viewers are non-medical. Can you tell us just a little bit about oculoplastics, just so they understand what you're talking about?
So oculoplastics is specifically surgery of essentially the eyelids and what's called the orbit. So everything around the eye. And so I do like brow lift, lifting up brows. I work on eyelids that are turned in, turned out, droopy, tumors or skin cancers on the eyelids or tumors inside the orbit, or also the lacrimal system, the tears, anyone who has tearing, like doing surgery to resolve tearing. So that's what oculoplastics is. It's very super specialized. And so emergencies tend to be like eyelid lacerations, so in which often happen in dog bites, or like trauma to the eye itself. And usually it's the eye will get closed, but if the eye is so damaged that sometimes it has to come out, unfortunately. So that's something that I would be doing. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So I just wanted that folks knew what you were talking about. What is this oculoplastics? Because it's not, a common field.
Well, I think a lot of actually physicians don't even necessarily know like about the specifics of oculoplastics, right? Because I don't think I knew about, like, ophthalmology has all these specialties that I didn't realize really until I went to ophthalmology. So you're someone who went to like orthopedic surgery is going to have no idea the different ophthalmology specialties. So, but my idea was that I was going to go reestablish myself in Cleveland and then leave and start my own private practice. Well, then the pandemic happened, and the idea of starting a private practice really did not seem such a good idea anymore.
Sure.
Right? Like, there was just a time where I was just so glad that I hadn't already started, because then you'd have like rent to pay on an office building, staff to take care of, and no patients to see, right? Like,
right. Yeah. It's a very insecure time for sure.
Right. So it was at that time that I also discovered life coaching, and really, it changed my whole mindset around my thoughts about the hospital system and, the burnout that I was having from like the lack of autonomy, the call, all these things that were going on in my situation. And so after the pandemic happened and I was thinking, well, maybe I don't want to start my own private practice, I started thinking, well, maybe I would want a great place for me to actually serve would be to have my life coaching business. And in the coaching,
I want to stop you for a second. So how did you yourself discover life coaching? What led you there?
Yeah. So the Leverage and Growth Virtual Summit was where I first discovered coaching, and that's actually coming up soon. It's mid-March. The first time it was held in May, but now it's mid-March. And that was a summit where Peter Kim brought together all these physicians who are doing things outside of the practice of medicine. Now, some of them still practice medicine, but we're doing all these other things like real estate investing, or venture capital investing, or like just being like speakers, or just like building like
Influencers,
different
you know,
programs, like
right? Yeah,
yeah.
they're doing everything. I'm so
Okay, I
familiar.
know. I'm just like I don't want to think, but yeah, like it's just like physician entrepreneurs, like just things that I just didn't even realize physicians were really doing. I mean, I think at some level you're kind of like, okay, there are going to be some physicians that help in the development of new medical treatments, or new medical instruments or something, but like I hadn't ever heard any of them actually speak. I had no idea what their backstory is. It didn't sound like something that was like possible for me, right?
Right.
And then one of the people he brought on was Dr. Sunny Smith, who is a life coach for physicians. And so that's when I first heard about coaching. And I didn't do her coaching program. What I did was she trained at a place called the Life Coach School. And so I went to a life coach school and actually participated in their coaching program. And that's where I ultimately actually decided to get certified and become a coach myself by
So what,
going
what
through this.
so what was it about what you heard that made you want to pursue life coaching? Or what impact did that have on you?
So I'm one of those people who, I tried reading like self-help books and, books like, like How to Be Happy and things like that. And it never really got through to me. But when I learned about coaching, like, and the way it actually talked about the difference in mindset, it wasn't just like, oh, you have to think happy thoughts. Like that just didn't like land for me. It was really that fact that you actually get some choice in what thoughts you're actually
Yeah,
thinking. Like
yeah,
you don't have to actually like think the thoughts you're thinking. Like that was kind of like mind blowing. It's like, yeah, that's true, right? Like we can be the watcher of our thoughts. We can like see what the thoughts are. It's kind of like, those cartoons where you've got that little devil, you've got the little angel, and they're saying
yeah.
these things. Like those are your thoughts going on, but then you can stand back and be like, okay, these are the opposing thoughts. What do I actually want to be thinking? And when I realized that, and like that was actually contributing to how I was feeling, and I could actually have like say in that, that's what was really powerful to me.
Okay, so it gave you back a measure of control,
Right,
really.
exactly. And that I think that for me, that was what the burnout was about, was the lack of control, was the fact that, there would be times where I'd be waiting to go to the OR like all day because, gunshot wound would come in, I get bumped, like knife stab wound would come in, I get bumped, and I'm just
Yeah,
waiting and waiting because it's urgent, but it's not, as emergent as
sure,
all these other
sure.
things, right? So yeah, so, and I had actually initially started coach certification with just thought that I was going to learn these tools so I could coach myself better, just kind of know the tools better myself. But of course, as part of any coach certification, you actually have to work on coaching people. And I really just enjoyed the coaching other people. And so now I coach physicians on money mindset just because I've had that financial background for so long. Where I've really been able to build my own wealth and really realize just how much of that is about like the mindset towards money. And how, like I said, met physicians of all sorts of different mindsets. So I didn't realize there was a study in 2019 that showed that 24% of physicians 65 and older have a net worth of under $1 million, which means unless they like work for something like the VA or some county hospital and have a pension, that they really can't retire. Because someone with, I mean, if all your assets are less than $1 million, that means that you basically have less than $40,000 to live on a year, which, yes, unfortunately, we do have people who live on less than $40,000. But if you've been a physician an entire career,
Yeah,
that's a hard place to be at. I mean, that's less than a resident makes.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So how did your mindset change? How did your, okay, I guess the real question is, did your personal money mindset change as a result of the coaching? So I know you said you could choose your thoughts, but specifically around money, did your
Yeah.
thoughts shift?
So right. So one of my thoughts was, even from graduate school, was I want to become financial free as soon as possible. Right. And I made this plan. And actually, originally, my plan was mostly, really kind of being more frugal and saving, investing, and not, going into a large lifestyle. And I have done that. But what I've realized with the coaching is that, like, there's a bit of, I mean, not that I wasn't enjoying life, but being kind of a little bit more able to let go, to do things like invest in coaching, which is purely just investing in kind of my own happiness, my own, well-being. And before, like I definitely have always spent money in traveling because that's just what I love. But like, I would even sit and look at the menu and really compare, like, okay, like, what's the value of this dish versus this dish? How much more am I going to like eating this dish versus that? And I mean, that sounds stupid, but it was just a matter of like always wanting the most value. And now it's kind of just like letting that go and just being like, it really doesn't matter. Like, what's going to bring you the most joy? And that's really part of value, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's something that you can't put a price on for sure.
Yeah.
So then okay. So what am I trying to ask you? So your mindset changed more to be more liberal with yourself. It sounds like, in terms of what you allowed, not as rigid, or your thoughts around money, not as rigid and as black and white almost, I'd say.
Right. Well, and also I think to allow myself to even go part-time, right? Um, and actually I'm at the point where even working part-time, I'm actually only making slightly less than I made full-time. So really the amount I'm getting, like in terms of the value I'm putting out in the world, and how much like cool hours I'm working, is such that uh, like it's actually a much better place, right? And really what it was is like I was basically being undercompensated before by, even though I quote had a good mindset about money, like, I didn't necessarily negotiate in a way that I really got what my value really was, right?
Okay.
uh,
So how did you transfer that into now helping other physicians?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there are a lot of physicians who would like to cut back, and they do worry about the financial ability to cut back. So, that's something where I work with physicians on, is the fact that, like I said, like cutting back hours doesn't even mean necessarily taking a decrease in pay, right? And how do you do that? You go back and you negotiate. You negotiate for, working less FTEs, but potentially, keeping the same income because of what you're doing with the FTEs that you're still there, right? If you're producing at your greatest value, then you may still be able to command the same income, but actually, 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week.
But so much of that, I feel like, is about mindset, obviously, because oftentimes what I find is that people feel like they have to practice one way, only one way, and they have to continue practicing that way, or, in terms of time and even the scope of their practice. And I think that, seeing people like you and some others may be liberating to others, to help them to say, okay, well, I don't have to work full time. Maybe I could scale back, or I don't have to stay in this particular job. Maybe instead I could, take a job or half-time job and do something else, some kind of passion project or something else on the side, that brings more meaning and more joy to my life and doesn't, hinder my bottom line financially.
Yeah, and so many things. Like, maybe your life would be a lot better if you had a scribe. And you could say, well, no one in my hospital has a scribe. No one in my clinic has a scribe. Well, I've now seen examples of physicians where they got themselves a scribe. No one in their hospital has a scribe, but they were able to advocate for themselves and get it. And then they paved the way for other physicians to be able to get it. And, in the end, like your hospital, your clinic, it is about the bottom line. So if you can be more productive and that covers the cost of the scribe, then like that, is worthwhile. If you can see, more patients and bring in more RVUs or income, and with the additional cost of the scribe, but the amount you're bringing in is greater than the amount that it costs, like, you can potentially get that to happen, right? Or
Yeah,
adjusting your schedule, right? Like, there's nothing to say you have to work from 8 to 5, right? Like,
right,
maybe
right.
you want to take your child to work to school in the morning, and you're going to start your clinic at 8:30.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with having, and I feel like in, you and I are about the same generation, babies of the 70s. Um, but I feel like in our generation, they didn't teach so much about having a growth mindset. And I see that now, like with my daughter's school, they talk about having a growth mindset instead of having a fixed mindset. So, you look at a situation, and instead of accepting it as it is at face value, you think about, well, how can I change this? How can I make this better? How can I make this work for me? And I think that that's where a lot of us get stuck, because we don't realize that we actually have the power and the ability to make those changes.
Yeah, and I mean, even I've talked to one physician where um, you know she said like a lot of physicians, they could be miserable at their job and they don't even think about leaving as an option, which I was really surprised. I was like, well, if you're miserable, aren't you thinking like, gosh, if I can only find something else? But some don't even like look for what the possibilities are. And unfortunately, there are most of the United States, we still have non-competes for physicians, which I think is ridiculous, and I'm hoping Biden does actually get rid of that. uh, but even if you have a non-compete, you could do locums for a year or 2 years to wait out your non-compete, or find some other way to wait your non-compete. Or I've known physicians who are able to go back to their institutions and basically get their non-compete taken away.
Right. So again, it's about owning your power to change your life, and not accepting that you're stuck in a particular box or a particular situation. So tell me about Grow Your Wealthy Mindset. How did you come up with the name? What do you do there?
Yeah, so I started out with I think I started out with wealthy mindset because I really, coaching is all about mindset, and I like the word wealthy in the sense that it's not just about money, it's about kind of a lifestyle, a way of thinking, of just more of a sense of like abundance, as opposed to a word like rich. I feel like kind of points more towards money. But yeah, so I just went with wealthy mindset. And but wealthy mindset by itself is not something I could trademark. It's there are too many other things that are close to it. I initially started with wealthy mindset MD, but I came up across some issues with trademark there. So just thinking like more, how can I expand with wealthy mindset? And so I went with Grow Your Wealthy Mindset, with the sense of like growing and having that growth mindset essentially.
Okay. So
And
now you
so
do one-on-one coaching, group coaching.
yeah, so I do
What?
one-on-one coaching, mostly with physicians. I have worked with some nurse practitioners, dentists, and orthodontists. So mostly it's been people in the medical field. And uh, and yeah, so I work one-on-one, and we work, on it. So different clients have come for different things. We kind of will settle for like, what the goal is in the beginning, and make a decision on what to work on. So I definitely had some clients that have come like basically like straight up just wanting to work on the money mindset. That they just knew that they had a real scarcity mindset, that they just couldn't let go of money, they couldn't spend money, they just hoarded money, and we worked on just working on that money mindset, building that abundance. I've had other people come where really they weren't really they wanted a change in their work situation. And so it was really a lot about working on like all the thoughts, like what is an ideal job look like? And is this something that they can create at their current job, or is this something really that they're thinking that they may want to leave and build somewhere else? I've worked with some physicians just on PSLF and the mindset around like, can I get PSLF, and making it happen. And it does happen. I've got multiple clients who've had all their loans forgiven, and it feels great at the end of the day on that for sure. Um, so
Yeah,
so those
actually,
are.
I'm one of them. It happened for me this week.
Oh, awesome! Congratulations. That's
Thanks.
amazing. Yeah. And then I just had people who were like, yeah, they want to learn how to start building wealth. And so, we'll go through their financial situation, and that can be partially like creating a spending plan. I don't really like using budget because that's restrictive, just like diet is restrictive, right? Like if you go on a diet and you get to your goal weight, then as soon as you get to your goal weight, you kind of go off your diet, and then you're not in the right place. So as opposed to if you just get an eating plan where you like what you're eating every day, you can get your goal weight and then you can maintain it. So same thing with spending, having a spending plan so that you're spending on the things that you value, you're happy with what you have, and And then you can maintain that, and then your saving and investing goal, and then how do you want to invest. So I have a background investing in real estate. I kind of mentioned that earlier. So, and there's a lot of ways to invest in real estate. There's active, passive, long-term rentals, short-term rentals. So we'll go over a lot of the mindset of like, what is involved in each different type of investing in real estate, or or staying with traditional stock and bond investing, or I haven't had anyone want to, go over cryptocurrency, but I mean, just it's all mindset, right? Investing is all mindset. So just kind of like reaching in, like how much time do you want to spend? How much time do you want to spend learning versus doing? And what's your risk tolerance? And so we'll go into that, and then people will kind of decide like how they want to invest the money that they're saving to best build that road to financial independence.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, if our guests are interested in working with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so if you're interested in working, I would say go to my website, growyourwealthymindset.com, and just sign up for a consultation call with me or a discovery call, and then we can sit and chat. That's totally free, and just chat about what your goals are and how I can help you meet those goals. And if you're not necessarily ready to talk, but you just kind of want to learn more, I've got the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, and that's available on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Google Podcast. So hopefully whatever app you're using. I also have a YouTube channel, which is Wealthy Mindset MD. I wasn't able to change that to Grow Your Wealth Mindset, so it has the old name. And there's videos to watch there if you want to just kind of hear more about my message and what I do. Get on my email list, get a weekly email. So those are the
A
ways to
lot of
kind of get
ways,
to know me.
and we will definitely put all of those in the chat for you guys. So we're almost out of time, but I'd like to end on the same question or a variation of the same question each week. And so my question to you, Dr. Elisa, would be if there is one single best thing that an individual can do to grow their wealthy mindset, what would it be?
The one single best thing, I think it really just like, yeah, examining the thoughts that are in your head and realizing that you can change those thoughts, and you can believe a thought that's not really true, right? If it serves you, then there's not necessarily a harm in that, right? Like it doesn't have to be definitively something you can prove, like, and just know that, like, you can really achieve anything that you really put your mind to. And I know that sounds really optimistic, and certainly if you put certain timelines, maybe you're not going to achieve like becoming a millionaire next week, right? But if you want to be a multimillionaire, I mean, that is totally within everyone's ability
Right. If you make
to
the
be honest.
plan and put in the work, right? Make the
Yeah.
plan, put in the work, you get the results. Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing this mindset with us. I especially appreciate that it's not all about money. That that you understand that wealth is about abundance of spirit, abundance of life, and just having a life that you enjoy.
Yeah.
So
I mean, money is really just a tool. It's a tool to get you what you want, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So one of the Facebook users congratulated me on the PSLF. Thank you very much. So I will see you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Again, registration is still open for a weekend from me. Secure your spot because we only have a couple more days. www.aweekendforme.com. Registration is closing at 10 a.m. on Friday, the 24th. So please don't miss out. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Lisa.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put a plug in. I mean, invest in yourself, invest in going to retreats. It will fill up your cup. I mean, the people that you meet, again, the more you talk to inspirational people, the more you're gonna find that you're able to do more. And I think going to retreats is a great way to kind of open up your mind for those things.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think a lot of people don't have the right mindset around things like retreats in particular or coaching. Because they do think of it as you giving money to someone else for something instead of seeing it as the investment in yourself. Because I can say personally, I have gained so much from going to retreats and doing coaching. There was one retreat in particular that I attended. I'm a part of, and this is actually where I met Dr. Elisa. We're both a part of a business school, and we had a retreat there. And really, before attending that retreat, I I had so much mind drama about so many things, that I would not even have been on camera here talking talking to you guys every week for sure. Um, but it being around other people, seeing, what do I call it, normalizing the struggle. So seeing
Mhm.
how your thoughts are so similar to other people's thoughts, and learning that you're not as broken as maybe you thought you were, or that maybe things are not as far out of your reach as you thought they were. For instance, if you meet someone who, um, we had on the show, and actually she's going to be one of the speakers at the retreat, Dr. Tawana. If you meet someone like Dr. Tawana who tells her story of going from massive debt to financial freedom, and you hear where she came from and how she did it, it's an inspiration. It's like, okay, I could do that. I could do that with my life. And so, it really is a huge benefit to surround yourself with people and information and books and other things, that will inspire you to the greatness that lies within all of us.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
So anyway, I went off on a tangent. That's it. Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good night. We'll see you next week.